good afternoon, good evening. This is Professor Sistrunk, and I'm reaching out to my students. Okay, students, we got another packet tracer here, 2.7.6 packet tracer implementing basic connectivity. We have the addressing table here. We got switches that we working with, PCs, which you already been working with. You actually already completed this packet tracer. I'm just walking through the logistics of making sure you understand what you actually are doing in this particular packet tracer. So we're going to use these IP addresses, and we're going to start beginning to understand why we are using these particular IP addresses and what are they used for. Also, you know that I have my document to the side, so I don't need this. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that down. And you see we got 2 PCs and 2 switches. Now, I want you to understand, I'm not gonna complete everything on here because I just want to make sure that I explain to you why you are using VLAN 1 and VLAN 2. Just in case you just did a lab and don't understand why you're doing it. Remember, these lessons that you learn are not only to be able to learn a lesson, but understand a lesson so you can apply it in a real world situation, especially when you go into an interview and they ask you this question, why do we use VLAN 1? You need to be able to explain this. This is critically important. As they say, mission critical, mission critical. Now, you see like I said, we got 2 switches, we got 2 PCs. So let's talk about the basic scenario of what we're going through here. The objective is simple. Perform a basic configuration on S1 and S2. S1, S2, VLAN 1, VLAN 2. Configure the PCs. So we got to put IP addresses on the PCs. And then it says here, configure a switch management interface. That's why we really here. This statement here, switch management interface. You already know how to configure a PC. You already know how to do basic configuration on a switch. We have a lot of things in here like passwords and all that. I'm not going to do the passwords because you already know how to put a password, because you already know that. So we're not going to. I want to get to the nitty gritty of this particular packet tracer, and it's this here. If you ask me, Professor, what is so important about this packet tracer? This is what's important. You have to understand how to do this by using this command and this command here. Show commands are critically important, people. Learn them. Understand why you are doing what you're doing. Ping command helps you figure out what the problem is. Whenever you troubleshoot the issue, ping, ping, ping. You're going to hit ping, you're going to hit trace route, you'll hear all these different things. Okay, so that's mission critical for this particular packet tracer. In this activity, you will first create a basic switch configuration. Then you will implement what we call a basic connectivity by, and you see me reading through this, by configuring IP addressing on switches and PCs. But the most important thing is show commands to verify configuration and ping commands to verify basic connectivity. Do not forget this. This is so important in your career as an IT person, wherever you tend to go, especially in networking and cybersecurity. Okay, so Professor, you say that this is important, Professor. You say that, hey, this is the most important thing. Let's say, for example, you are sitting in California and your company has a satellite location in Chicago. How do you troubleshoot problems on the switch? If someone calls you with an IT ticket and say, hey, we have a problem with our switches here, how do you troubleshoot this particular problem? We configure what we call the switch management interface. What's important is to be able to configure the switch to be able to remote in here and do work on that particular device. And that's why we assign IP addresses to switches. We assign them to the switch management interface. And we use VLAN 1 to get started. Now, we're going to talk a lot about VLAN 1 because when you go into a corporation, we're not going to name it VLAN 1 because VLAN 1, every hacker in the universe know what VLAN 1 is. So if you got VLAN 1 on your switches, they coming in, they knocking your door down, okay? And we're going to use commands like show IP interface brief, show running configuration, ping, so we can ping the device to see if we can reach out to it. These things are important, and I want you to make sure you understand. You went past the lab, but do you really understand what you're doing with the lab? That's what's important. Okay. And this is going to be important in two different plays in your life. When you go to an interview, remember, I'm always talking about those interviews. When you go to the interview and they say, explain to me, what is the switch management interface? You should know how to explain that and why you use it and the purpose. Real world scenarios. I'm in California. There's a satellite place in New York, Chicago, and I can reach out to the devices. So that's important. Now, the second part is when you take your certification test. This is going to be a part of your certification. You need to be able to explain why you use or configure a switch management system. So remember, interview, certification, that's why it's important. Well, it's important to learn so you can make sure you know how to do the job. But those are two critical issues that will be brung up in your life. We know that the switch is a layer 2 device. So that means it will communicate with the other switch with the PCs anyway without any configuration because it's a layer 2 device. Remember your layers. They're not something you pass over. So this is a layer 2 device. But we need to put an IP address on this layer 2 device via the VLAN to be able to communicate to that layer 2 device. To remote into these devices, we need to put an IP address on the device so we can go ahead and use it. So I'm just bringing this up because it's critically important. VLAN 1 is the default management VLAN. That's why we got to change it from VLAN 1 because every switch, well, I can't say every switch because I don't know every switch. The majority of the switches out there, they are VLAN 1. So we will change this in a productive organization to another number. I've just typed in a number, but we'll change it to another number and we'll call it VLAN whatever. Okay, so that's important. Assign an IP address to the switch. But the next thing is to enable remote tools. That's what the assigning an IP address will do. Allow us to enable remote tools. And what are some of these remote tools, Professor? Well, one of the tools, CDP, I'm not going to tell you what that is. You tell me. LLDP. And, of course, STP. Now, these tools are used for messaging, and they are critically important for us to get information. Now, this one here, this tool here, I'm going to say right now, is super dangerous. So be careful if you set that up. But these other two are important for messaging, for us to get information. I'm going to take that out. That's an advanced, you're going to learn in the advanced session, but they critically important. So now I am going to go ahead and start setting up this setup here. The first thing I'm gonna do it a little backwards. And I already told you I'm not gonna do the password stuff. We're not gonna do that. I'm gonna put the IP address on this particular device. I'm gonna come here and just drop the IP address in. So it says PC1 NIC 192.168.1.2, .1. Okay, now remember, this is a class environment. This IP address would never be on this PC, but we just doing it now for fun, but it would never be that. That 1 would always be a router IP address or some major device IP address, but never on here. Now the subnet mask automatically dropped in, so we set that up. And I'm doing it the quick, fast way, but we got that set up. Okay, let's go ahead and close that. So now what I want to do is I want to go set up my switch management interface. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on here, and as you can see, it's up and running. I'm gonna hit enter, and then of course you already know we're gonna type in enable. From enable, we're gonna config. Make sure we do it absolutely right. Now, you know, I could have did it just a shortcut and got through this, but hey, I'm feeling in the mood today. Okay, now another thing is now we have to apply an IP address to the interface. Now remember, I told you when you have a physical device in your hand, like a switch, if you're holding it, when you turn it around, you're gonna see ports. But when we are configuring them, we call them interface. Just know ports are interfaces, interfaces are ports. Just to make sure you roughly understand what's going on. So I'm gonna put an IP address on here right now, and that way we can actually get it up and running. I keep misspelling, I don't know why, what's going on with me. 192.168.1.253. That's the first one. And of course, I'm gonna go 255.255.255.0. Now, this is a standard IP address inside of developing this. I'm gonna hit enter. Another key thing, and this is where you will see a lot of network people make mistakes. They don't type in no shutdown when they create these devices. Make sure you do that, okay? Now that says the interface is up. Here's your message right here. Now with that interface being up, I'm just gonna exit up out of here because I don't need to be at this level anymore, okay? So I'm gonna get out of there. So you just saw how I configured this device. I know, you already did it. Professor, I already did that, I'm done. But now you are understanding why you are doing this. For those who didn't understand before, now you do. I can go do the other switch, but I'm not going to do that because you saw how it was done. But now you know you can communicate to these devices. Now, of course, I'm going to do this. I'm going to see if I can ping it. So I'm going to click on PC1, go to command prompt, and I'm going to type in ping 192.168.1.2. Oh, let me back that up. 253. Let's see if I'm connected, and let's see what will happen. So I'm reaching out to the device. Are there any mistakes? Now you saw this first lat, it says timed out, but then it gave me 3 more. And that's only because this is the first time it's reaching out to that device. But now if I do it again, I won't have that problem. It'll give me a total of 4. So the first time you reach out to it, it's gonna give you that timeout. But when you do it again, it's good. So now you can see that I can communicate with this device. Okay, I'm not going to reach over here and do this entire site because you get the point. I'll click on here and I am going to type in show IP interface. You should be able to do this now because one, you already did the lab, but if you haven't completed this lab, you know that you can do it now with no problem. You can see that I got show IP brief in there, but I'm in the wrong location. Like, brother, you need to get out of there. So I'm gonna type exit in there this time. Exit. And then I'm gonna type in show IP interface. I'm gonna just look at the interfaces and I'm gonna say brief. I'm just gonna put an R. Okay, so that is show IP brief, and here's the interface. But you notice, like I said in the beginning, these two are turned on. They're up because we connected the wires. Let me say that when you see these protocols are up and the status of, that means you connected the wiring to the right device, port to port, switch. This wire here lets you know they up because you took PC, you took that cord, you plugged it in there, and then you plugged it in here and they sent up. But what we want to know is, did I configure it right? And that is VLAN 1, 192.168.1.253 up. So that right there is pretty much going to end the lesson now. The other part you can do on your own, but you know now that you just turned on this particular switch so you can remote into it from anywhere and fix any problems on that particular switch. And that's what this lab is truly about. It's not necessarily about, hey, I can now put a IP address on a PC. You already knew that. It's about remoting into switch using the switch management interface. And like I said earlier, I want you to be able to understand why this is mission critical. We have running protocols on these devices like CDP, LLDP, and STP, and they're important to be able to manage these devices. This is Professor Sistrom. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the next video.